So I got that. The girls just went through and it was just and then see how long we did. I thought it was my son's teaching. So I said, I want to read it. I got that. See, my son has a restaurant. And unfortunately, without some of the I'm always like, that's where more got I just got all over the place. It's okay. I liked it. I did love it. So in the end, it's coming back to the end, and I'm like, oh, I think someone was like, cut out, and look 75 degrees in the middle, tap the end, or that, which is easy portion. What? I think it's good. Yeah. Okay, I've got the thing ready.
Hi everybody, we're gonna start. And I've monopolized the intro, so I'm gonna handle introducing us. My name's Kate Spencer. I'm our In Conversation partner. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, I appreciate it.
We're big fans.
This is very exciting for me. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm also an author and hilariously have a book about summer camp. So the three of us have bonded over not just the shared experience of writing about camp, but also kind of the nostalgic love, if you will.
Also the fact that our titles are so similar.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna talk about maybe how we've all like lived parallel lives together.
Okay.
So I'm going to read your official bio. Allie Brady is the pen name of writing BFFs Allison Hammer and Brady Godfrey. Their debut novel, The Beach Trap, made several best of summer lists, including the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Parade Magazine, and Katie Couric Media. Until Next Summer is their third book together, which is an amazing feat. Allison lives in Chicago and works as an advertising creative director. She's also the founder and co-president of Artists Against Anti-Semitism and the author of You and Me and Us and Little Pieces of Me. Brady lives in Utah. With her husband, 4 children, and 2 dogs, she works as a physician and is the author of the psychological thrillers Imposter and The Followers. Wow.
We don't sleep a lot.
I can't imagine you do. Also, separately, you have superhero resumes. Together, you're like not human. That's an incredible little pin-up. Well, thank you all for having me. My name's Kate Spencer. I'm also an author of the book One Last Summer, a book called In a New York Minute, and a memoir called The Dead Moms Club, which is a self-explanatory title. But I also write romantic comedy. So you had a specific way that you wanted to describe what the book is about.
This book takes place at Camp Chickawaw, and so we didn't want to do just a normal book tour. We wanted to make these events feel like they're a night at Camp Chickawaw itself. So you're all going to get a friendship bracelet before you leave. And we thought we would, Brady learned to play the ukulele 3 weeks ago.
We just read you write books, are a doctor, have 4 kids, and a bunch of dogs.
I play the ukulele very badly.
No. And she wrote a song to describe the book.
Yeah, so instead of like us just telling you the elevator pitch of the book, we're going to sing a song about the book.
But wait,
But wait. Oh yeah, we're gonna put on our hats.
This makes it much better.
Summer
So much
camp
better.
counselors.
Camp
Camp
Chippewa.
Chippewa. Okay.
All right, so again, Brady's super talented. Brady has a gorgeous voice. So what we're gonna do, this is a call and repeat song. So she's gonna beautifully sing a line of the song, and then the rest of us are gonna do whatever it is that comes out, and we're gonna repeat the line after her.
Yeah. So you guys get it, right? Like the Princess Pat.
Okay, hold on, are we ready?
Okay.
All right, everyone.
Camp Chippewa
Camp Chippewa
is the place to be.
is the place to be.
For summer fun.
For summer fun.
And memories.
And memories.
A favorite place.
A favorite place.
For two best friends.
For two best friends.
Hillary and Jessie.
Hillary and Jessie.
Fun never ends.
Fun never ends.
But now it's been
more
than 10 years.
more than 10 years.
They've drifted apart.
They've drifted apart
With lots of tears.
with lots of
The
tears.
director of camp
The director of camp
is now Jessie.
is now Jessie,
And a businesswoman
and a businesswoman
is Hillary.
is Hillary.
When Jessie learns
When Jessie learns
the camp must close,
the camp must close,
she's sad and lost.
she's sad and lost.
But then she knows
But then she knows
she'll hold a camp
she'll hold a camp
all summer long.
all summer long.
For just adults,
For just adults,
what could go wrong?
what could go wrong?
Okay, so Jessie invites
So Jessie invites
all of her friends.
all of her friends.
Come back to camp
Come back to camp
before it all ends.
before it all ends.
They'll hike and sing,
They'll hike and sing,
do crafts and play.
do crafts and play.
They'll skinny dip,
They'll skinny dip,
play pranks all day.
play pranks all
Okay,
day.
now we're gonna introduce the love interests.
Okay,
Okay,
ready?
here we go. Now Grumpy Luke
Now Grumpy Luke
comes to write his book.
comes to write his book.
He's rude and gruff.
He's rude and rough.
When Jessie takes a look,
When Jessie takes a look,
when Jessie goes
when Jessie goes
on a kayak ride
on a kayak ride
and starts to sink,
and starts to sink,
Luke saves her life.
Luke saves her life.
Now Hillary
Now Hillary
thinks she's no fun,
thinks she's no fun,
but Cooper the chef
but Cooper the chef
shows her how it's done.
shows her how it's done.
Hillary and Coop
Hillary and Coop
were each other's first kiss,
were each other's first kiss,
but soon they do
but soon they do
much more than this.
much more than this.
And Jess and Hill,
And Jess and Hill,
they make amends,
they make amends,
rebuild their bond
rebuild their bond
as lifelong friends.
as lifelong friends.
What happens next?
What happens next?
Well, take a look.
Well, take a look.
You're gonna
You're gonna have
have to read the book.
Right?
No, that was amazing.
Okay.
Also, you really did just sum up the entire book perfectly with no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Just so I'm aware, out of show of hands, who here has read the book already? Okay, good. So we're gonna make sure we
Just one.
stay as spoiler free as we possibly can.
I mean, it's a romance, so I think we can all safe to say they fall in
They
love.
nobody ends up together. Right, just kidding, just kidding.
And you're welcome to keep the hat on or you can
Oh, I
take it off.
forgot. Thank you. This is the way in which I'm becoming more and more like my dad. We're going to talk a little bit about the book, but one thing that nosily I really am curious about is your collaborative writing process. Obviously, you're a writing duo, and I think we will discuss how you work together to write the book because I find that fascinating. But I want to go back even further to like, how do two people come up with an idea for a story? Is it an aha moment that you both share? Is it a conversation that turns into something more? Is it different with every book? Like, what is the nugget of the idea? How do you come to it together? And then how do you both agree, yes, that is the thing we're going to dig into and make our next book about?
Well, our editor decides. So like for the last book, we sent 8 ideas to our editor and she picked the one that she told us her favorites. And then her favorite, it's interesting, this is the next book we're going to write. It was not the one we thought we were going to write, but we send a lot of ideas, but this book has my favorite initiation idea of like where the idea came from of all of our books, because it came from our readers. So our debut novel, The Beach Trap, has the prologue takes place at Camp Chickawaw when our campers were like 12 years old. And I know you're not supposed to read the reviews, but I can't help it. And I kept in every review, not every, but a lot of reviews, it was like, we love the nostalgia of camp. The camp scene was so much fun. I love the nostalgia. And it was so many people loved it that I sent Brady a message. I'm like, we have to write a book that's set at camp. And she's like, but we don't write YA. So do you want to take it over?
Yeah, so we just brainstormed ideas. I mean, I think we have 4 or 5 pages of ideas. How would we set something at camp? Why would adults go to camp? How would we get them at camp for a long enough period of time?
With 2 friends and falling in love. And
Yeah,
all the
and
things.
I mean, it just took a lot of brainstorming, but I think there was a lot of energy behind it. We were pretty excited about the topic.
When your editor is like, okay, it's this one, is there a moment of like, oh my gosh, or like elation, or, you know, like, were you expecting it to be the Until Next Summer idea?
I think we were excited.
We for this one, for Until Next Summer, we really wanted that idea.
Yeah.
We had a couple other ideas, but again, like, we both are camp people. Originally, it was called Camp People.
Oh,
And
it's such
so
a great
I
title.
know. But we wanted this one for the next one, which we're also really excited about. And being a writer is so weird because we literally just sent the next book to our agents like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this one. So sometimes we get confused about what book we're talking about. But the last one, we sent 8 ideas to our editor. And I think I don't think we would send anything we wouldn't be okay writing.
Yeah.
But as soon as like we get that, okay, that's what we're doing, that it's just like, it's on.
full
And we
steam
go,
ahead.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad you went with Camp People.
Yeah.
Well, until next summer. But
Yes.
I'm glad that the Camp People idea was the one that you
Yeah.
ended up landing on.
And we just have to say, so we're Until Next Summer, and she's One Last Summer, and I
Yes.
cannot count the number of times I've called our book One Last Summer.
Right now in my
It's our
brain,
book.
It's very confusing.
I am sitting here and I'm like, get the name right.
It's okay if you don't. It's okay if
No,
you don't.
and the original draft of my book, One Last Summer, was called Camp Friends.
Oh my gosh.
Camp Friends is a
We
great
could have had
title.
camp friends
The
and camp
similarities just keep on coming. So
Maybe
you,
we share a brain.
I mean, if you guys are inviting me into a writing trio,
Emily and Austin just did it.
that's right, with Bridget Morrissey.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're both camp people, and I find I also am a camp person, but I find it interesting because if you didn't grow up going to summer camp, I do think there can be a little bit of kind of an exclusivity that comes with summer camp, whether it's being included. Cost is a big challenge that comes with summer camp. So could you describe, I think, what it means to you to be a camp person, and then also how you made this concept of camp accessible to readers? Was that something that was kind of in the back of your mind, knowing that some people might come to a story about summer camp being like, I don't know what a canoe is. Like, I've never slept in a cabin.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel really nostalgic for people who have been to camp and are camp people, but also feel for those who haven't and just maybe grew up watching The Parent Trap or other movies set at camp, that they would feel like they got to go to camp. So kind of bringing that to them.
And I think that one of the coolest things, we've got a spoiler alert, we've got a social post coming at some point where we posed the question, do you have to have gone to camp to like this book? And we have so many reviews where people were like, I was nostalgic for an experience I never had, or like that they felt like they went. And I think that, as readers, we read books that we haven't experienced all the time.
100%.
And so I think that reading can help us experience that. And some of the things like Capture the Flag, you don't have to have gone to sleepaway camp. That's a thing we have in both of our books.
Yeah.
So I think that there are some things that are universal. And yeah, I just think that it's also that summer feeling and the summer vibes, which is universal.
You say this and you're correct. Like I currently binge read books about aliens,
Yeah.
alien romances,
Yeah.
and I have yet to go to an alien ice planet.
So unfortunate.
But I really do feel like I have.
Yeah.
I think too, there's something so comforting about summer nostalgia, and I think it's also kind of very specifically American summer nostalgia.
Yeah.
Although perhaps our neighbors to the north also seem to have quite a camp culture up in Canada, but there is something I feel like that we are hungering for when we seek out nostalgia in a book. Has that been something you've heard from readers too? Like there's just been an extra layer of comfort that you get from a nostalgic romance?
I think so. And I think that that's what drove us to write the book, is that even reading about 12-year-olds at camp was nostalgic. And, the world is a difficult place right now, huh? And I think that there's kind of.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something that our characters experience when they go back to camp, and that readers vicariously can experience about, there's a scene, your camp has internet and a very complicated password.
Real plot twist.
But our camp only has internet in one spot. And so, like, some of the campers freak out a little bit. Like, what are you going to do a week without internet?
Yeah.
And so there is something just simplistic and nostalgic about that experience. You don't have to give up internet to read the book, though.
But it does make a useful storytelling tool too. The playing of the internet.
Yeah.
We both played with that.
Yes.
When you just mentioned the idea of camp people, what does it mean to be a camp person?
Well, if you're not, you're pond scum.
Yeah,
According to our characters.
which we don't necessarily believe.
No, not at all.
It is possible to write a character that you don't agree with,
Yes.
right? Contrary to what some people may think. But I think for a camp person sort of is, I don't know, I think it's more of a vibe of like somebody who enjoys this experience of being in a specific place and sort of cutting yourself off from the world. Camp is this really special little universe of its own where you get to sort of say goodbye to everything else and just focus on this little moment right there.
And it's interesting because the two words that came to mind for me with the camp person, like for me, it was such independence.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Lori and Jordan know my sister, but my sister and I went to the same camp and I loved it. I was like, this is my place. And my sister was like, hated it. And we went to a camp in Minnesota. Camp Chickawaw is based on the camp that I went to, Camp Birchwood, and it was on a lake. And we had a boat on the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. And Minnesota and Missouri are not close. And my sister was like, come pick me up on the boat. And for me, I loved it. So I think that there's an independence, but there's also a community. And when you're a kid, your community is your family and your parents' community. And it's really cool having a community that's outside of that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I think there's a lot of elements of being a camp person.
Yeah.
I think you address that so beautifully in the book too, of that feeling of never really quite being seen with your family, and the person that you get to be at camp is perhaps the most authentic you that you can be. And I don't necessarily think that necessarily is a camp for everybody, but that feeling of like, where am I my truest self?
Yeah.
You get to figure out who you are,
Yeah.
I think, in a way that you don't when you're in your life at home.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you both went to camp. Were either of you camp counselors?
Me,
Can
could
you
you tell? I was, yes, loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, loved it.
And did you draw on that experience when?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, there was so much joy in like helping, I don't know, you feel like this really sweet connection with these campers that you sort of help kind of, I don't know, help them figure themselves out, and they show up to camp and they're nervous and they're scared and they're away from their mom for the first time. And then they make friends by the end and they're doing things on their own. It's really, really wonderful.
Now, let's touch on how you write your books, because this is a dual POV told from the point of view of two former childhood besties from camp who have been estranged over the years. So you each have a character and you're in charge of those chapters. And then you send those chapters to the other person to review and edit?
We have a shared document.
Okay.
And so we each have our own documents that we write in, and then our normal schedule is a chapter a week. So, but before we write, we spend a couple weeks, we tease that we share a brain, but we don't really. So we do like 2 or 3 weeks of marathon Zoom calls where we get to know the characters and their arcs and their wounds and their story and like everything about the characters. And then we do extensive plotting. And so we know what's coming, but you can know what's coming and then be totally surprised when you start writing.
Yeah.
So we'll each write our draft and then send to the other and edit. Excuse me. And then this is our third book published, but our fourth book we've written together. And our characters get progressively closer and spend more time in the other's chapters. So I feel like it started off being a lot more separate, and now I feel like it's pretty integrated. In our next book, we both wrote a lot of each chapter.
So your books are really a reflection of like your actual relationship in a lot of ways.
I think so.
Yeah. And Can you each talk a little bit about the character that you tackled? I mean, I think Brady, we can start with Jessie, since
Sure.
she's the camp director.
Yes, she's the camp director.
I would love to know maybe how you work together to shape her, and also I'm just curious, like, how are you like, I get this one and I get this character? Like, how do you decide that?
Yeah, we sort of talk about which one we feel drawn to for whatever reason. And I think because I've been a camp counselor, I was drawn to Jessie, who was the camp director. And just crafting this person who had made camp her entire life, and reading, I kind of went online and read about camp counselor, people who started as camp counselors and then became camp people like full time, and the dedication and the passion that they have to have for this, it's really neat. So just trying to pour that into this person and trying to figure out why would somebody want to make their entire life summer camp.
And I wrote Hillary. And Hillary, it's interesting. Hillary had a personality shift more than halfway through.
Yeah.
We had the draft finished and we're about to send it to our editor. And then our editor and agents had a call and they were like, let's maybe focus more on the romance and simplify the plot. So Hillary got she got a new job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So so I wrote her twice.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of her core was the same, and she's a chronic people pleaser, which is something that I can relate to. She's Jewish, which I can relate to, and with what we try to do. So for me, growing up, having Jewish characters is really important to me. Growing up, a Jewish book was a Holocaust book, but that is like one small chapter, a very important chapter, but it's one small chapter of our history. And I love the casual Jewish mentions, like they talk about Passover, they talk about a couple foods, and it's just like happens to be in her life. It's casual Jewish representation. So I brought that to her. And I think her kind of character arc is realizing that it's okay to do what you want to do and not necessarily what other people expect for you to do. She lives her life based on a checklist of what she needs to accomplish. And then she goes to camp and that all gets blown up.
She also has kind of this narrative that she tells about herself that I think is maybe fed from other people. Like, she's not fun.
Exactly.
And at camp, she gets to kind of.
Well, and I don't think this is a spoiler alert, but her dad, so it's just her and her dad. And her dad would always tell her that, like, she came home from camp and she was a totally different person. And it took her a while to get back to her real self. And at the end, she kind of has a realization, like, well, maybe the real self is the version of me that's at camp. And that is it's not a huge spoiler alert, but she comes to realize that's really who she is.
Yeah. With the help of some hunky
men.
Conveniently.
Yes.
You have two delightful love interests that really, you know what? It was really fun reading two romances in one, I gotta say. Because most of the romance books I read, it's just two people falling in love. And I was like, yes, I've got one grumpy person over here. I've got the kind of reformed playboy. So tell us about these two characters and how do you kind of shape the love interest after you know did you know who Jessie and Hillary were, and then did you kind of know who their foils were going to be?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's so hard to think back because it all kinds of comes together in like little pieces. But yes, there was definitely a thought of like, what kind of love interest would help this character kind of learn and grow and create their character arc that they need. And each of the guys also have their own character arc. So.
And I think I don't think it's unique to us, but we definitely, like, when we do the pre-work, we put as much thought into the backstory and wounds and all in the journey of the love interest as we do. Yeah. So our books tend to be a little bit on the long side, and that's why there's a lot of stuff happening there. But the love interests were really fun to write.
Yeah, I actually, I did not find it to be on the long side. I tore through this book in like a cozy afternoon. But I love the layers of kind of like you have so much lovely peeling back of the onions of more than just the two main characters, which I think just made it so much even more of a satisfying read. You did mention Luke is based on Paul Newman. And then I also just need to throw out that, and this is not a spoiler, but I'm from Massachusetts, born and raised. And Coop, Hillary's love interest, wears a Red Sox hat.
Yes.
And that was an immediate turn on for me.
Yes.
So, I was like, I know this man, and I'm in love with this man. So I want to.
He's pretty great. And the aprons.
Oh, come on, and the hat. Come on. Okay. He's a chef, everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
a chef.
so.
Yeah.
So, but I imagine that you had fun seeing as Luke is inspired by Paul Newman.
Yes,
And
young Paul Newman
Okay.
with the piercing blue eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and named after Cool Hand Luke.
Named after Cool Hand Luke. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. He was so much fun to write. He's a brooding writer. Sort of his writing career has sort of failed, and he's shown up at camp to write this book that he thinks is going to be his last book, and he's sort of trudging through it. And
He's rude.
He's very rude. He's kind of a jerk. And so, but it's fun to play with that kind of jerky person and figure out how to help him open up and grow a little bit. Yeah.
And now for the Red Sox hat. Where did you get that idea? You just know they're universally hot.
So I think I've lived in 9 cities. So I've lived a lot of places, and so I lived in Boston for 4 years. We have a lot of fun doing Easter eggs in our books. Our friend Kathleen West writes a lot of books set in Minnesota in a fictional town called Liston Heights. And so we have a lot of Liston Heights in our other 2 books. And we have a little Easter egg for Colleen Hoover, who has been so supportive and wonderful for us. And so we thought that would be a fun little thing. So that was part of it. And Boston just seemed like it would made him like Boston almost is a character in itself. And so it added, it added a layer of interest for him.
Nosy question.
Yeah.
I know that you were in Boston researching for your next book.
Yes.
Is it connected to the world that Cooper comes from? Like, is there any sort of connection?
So all of our books have little Easter eggs of each other.
Yeah.
So
Delicious.
it's in the same world. So there are characters from the Beach Trap that show up in this book, and then there's another like super hidden one that we won't mention. And then our next book has we've got
there's little connections.
Yeah. And you don't have to read, like they're all standalone, but they're just little surprise and delights for like if you happen to have read them, you'll be like, oh wait, that's so and so.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
I just want to check on our time. Okay. Let's do a quick reading. I know you mentioned page 250 from your book.
Thank you for reminding us what page.
My pleasure. Just so we can get more of a feel of the world.
So we told you guys that Luke was rude. And this is after a moment where he was particularly rude. Do you want to say more about
so he and Jesse have been sort of like, will they, won't they? There's tension, there's chemistry, but he's pretty standoffish. And they have a moment in the woods where he almost kisses her. And in fact, in our original outline, he was supposed to kiss her. And I get to writing it, and I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And so he pulls away.
So rude.
And it makes her really
That really
frustrated.
sets her off.
It makes her really mad because he was kind of the one initiating things. And then he's like, never mind. So now she's upset and she's going to go find Hillary and she's going to vent.
Yes.
Okay, so we like to do these readings where we'll each play our parts. Okay, so here we go. When I approach the lodge, I'm relieved to see the window of Hillary's room glowing yellow. Soon I'm hurrying up the stairs and knocking on her door. She opens it, her eyes wide with surprise.
Jesse, what's going on?
Can you talk? I don't wait for an answer, just push my way past her. Then I see Cooper sitting on one of the twin beds and stop short. Oh. He and Hillary exchange a glance. They're fully clothed, but it's still awkward. I'll go, he says, and stands, but as he passes Hillary, he murmurs something to her and she blushes. I'm sorry for interrupting, but...
It's okay. What's up? She asks, motioning for me to sit next to her on the bed.
Luke, that's what.
What happened?
I yank the elastic off one of my braids and pick at the loose strands. What didn't happen, you mean? And he has the gall to act like I was throwing it myself at him? Ugh! I flop on the bed like a dramatic teenager. He was the one giving me compliments. He was the one saying I'm distractingly beautiful.
The nerve, Hillary says, smiling.
Right? And then he's all, I could write a paragraph about your freckles, and I can't stop thinking about your body next to mine in the water, and I'm having dreams about you again.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
I'm dead serious. She's listening with rapt attention, like we're 14 in our cabin talking about boy drama. He's literally touching my lips, Hilly, so did I think he was going to kiss me?
She hesitates and says, yes.
Of course I did, wouldn't you? And when I leaned in, involuntarily, I might add, I break off, seething with frustration.
Yeah, she props.
He stepped away from me.
He did not.
He did. I run my hands through my hair, my braids thoroughly unpicked. And then I stand and mimic Luke's posture, folding my arms and looking at the ground. He's all, I'm not in a place in my life where I should get involved with anyone. Like I even want that. I slump back on the bed, throwing an arm across my face. I guess now I just avoid him for the rest of the summer.
That's one way to handle it.
I move my hand, peeking out at her with one eye. Do you have a better idea?
Her lips curve in a mischievous smile. Oh, yeah.
And then there's a prank. There's a significant prank scene after that.
I love this scene too because it kind of, it's like them immediately getting back into the swing of things when their relation, they've been tiptoeing around each other for so much of their time together. And I remember hearing you read that, it reminded me of when I was reading it, and it felt so, that feeling of like when you just get back into it with a friend and how good that feels. And I think so obviously, this story, you have these two romances, but it's so much more a love story, not just about a place and what it can mean, but also about the connections we have with our friends, which are their own kinds of love stories in and of themselves. So I wanted to kind of ask about your own friendship, because I as a person in her 40s, think it's amazing the connections I have with other people who I became friends with as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, and you have these characters who have known each other since childhood, but the two of you really became friends within the last 10 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to know a little bit about how, as friends, you kind of parse friendship in your stories. And also, do you think you would have been friends at summer camp?
I think we would have. I think we would have been bunkmates. We would have felt like, I think so. Because we hit it off. Should we tell our meet cute?
Tell your meet cute.
Okay.
Yes, let's all fall in love with your meet cute.
Okay. So because we write romance, we call it our meet cute. And it started the way that I hope not a lot of meet cutes start, with some light stalking. I did some stalking of Brady. So we were both members of a online writing community, Women's Fiction Writers Association. And in that group, there are a lot of different opportunities where you can do different writing exercises and get people to critique your pitches. And there was one in particular where you could read people would post the first 200 words of what they were working on. And you could like nose around and look at everyone's. And I saw Brady's and I was like, oh, she's so good. I want to be her friend. And there was a separate group where you could find people to swap pages with and do like critiquing with. And so I think I messaged her and we ended up swapping pages and we like instantly hit it off. And we liked each other's writing and we liked each other's critique style, which is really important. And then we just started messaging and becoming friends. And then we became critique partners. And then do you want to tell how we took it to the next level?
Sure. So we were pursuing separate writing careers at this point. You have to get an agent first, and then you have to get a book deal and all of that. And we were kind of going down different paths. And then the spring of 2020 hit, and like everybody else, we were on lockdown. And we were just trading ideas about books. I was homeschooling kids, and she was working from home. And I think we just wanted distraction. But I had an idea for a book, and she had an idea for a book.
I asked you, I said, I have an idea. Is this dumb?
Yeah, that's right. You were like, is this a dumb idea? And I was like, no, I actually love it. And what if we combined it with my idea and we wrote a book together? So we just were like, let's write a book.
And I was like, you would want to do that with me? I was so excited. And then Christina Lauren is another best friend writing duo, which is Christina and Lauren. And so we're like, we could be Allie Brady. And the fact that it happened so fast. And Brady recently found the message, like literally, because this all happened over Messenger. And it's crazy that 4 years later, like this is our third book and our fourth one's coming out next summer.
Yeah.
So weird, but very cool.
Yeah, but I think this whole, question about friendship, I mean, we've explored friendship and female relationships in, sisterhood and friendship in other books. But I think there's something really special about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think many of us have a lot of peripheral friends that and you like them and you hang out with them. But then it's rare and special to have like a few very, very deep friends that you are really willing to like work on your shit with. You know what I mean? Like if you hurt their feelings or they hurt yours, you actually have the hard conversation. And we wanted to kind of write that with these two women, for them actually coming together and talking about their hurts. They had each kind of hurt each other and like figuring it out and having a grown-up conversation and working through it.
And it's hard to write. So there's a lot of second chance love stories. This is a second chance friendship story in a lot of ways. And, through the revision process in the beginning, Jesse was really angry at Hillary. And we had to work to soften that and make it more hurt than anger, because that's where it came from. Like, they were both hurt. They both loved each other so much. But when you're still kids, and then when you don't live next to each other, near each other, and don't see each other, just that gap gets wider. Yeah. And so, but it was really, really fun to write. And like, one of the coolest things about us writing together is that we get to read our book as we're writing it. So like when I get her chapter, I'm so excited. And there's a chapter where they first start, there's like cracks, and they first start to kind of, their friendship shows through again. And I like cried. Like, it's a beautiful, like, just becoming friends again and like remembering what you love about each other.
Yeah. So I imagine you also have that same excited feeling when a sex scene that one of you lands in the other's inbox. I love you. You were kind of chatting with some of the folks that you're in conversation with, and you said that everybody wants to know what it's like to write sex scenes with a writing partner.
Yes.
But you mentioned that you do write your chapters separately.
Yes.
Do intimate moments get a different sort of treatment?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
what is the treatment?
So, kind of. Brady's really, really good at it.
Oh my gosh, she always says this
Because
she says it like she doesn't write the dirty scenes.
I will tell you. So wait, I'm going to tell you, and I thought of this example. Okay. So my character's a chef, and there's a scene where he has her taste some mashed potatoes. And
Sorry. Wow, that just
But I will tell you that came out because Brady went in and she's like, we need to like up this a little bit. I was like, open your mouth, here's a spoon. And she was like, talking about, like, I mean, it's the way that.
Like, how about they lock eyes? And how about
like,
she feels it on her tongue? And how about
she makes everything just like steamier. And so like, it's important for me because, this is funny. We did a book club it was all women and one man. And for the Q&A part, the man was like, did your editor make you add the sex scenes? We're like, no. Like, but they're never gratuitous. Like, they're always like about the emotional connection. They're always about the character growth. So there's like a purpose for them. So I always want to take the first stab. I will write my character sex scene, but I know that I will like send it to Brady and like say, make this better, please. And she does.
She makes the mashed potatoes sexier.
She does.
I don't know.
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. Yes, but she also like took the sex scene and gave it to somebody else. So I want you to tell that story because it's funny.
It's super embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, yeah.
So, okay. Like I said, we had to do a big revision on the book, and part of it was making it like more romance. And my character's sex scene at first, because it's camp. Camp does not have like large, lovely, like comfortable beds. It had a twin bed. So my character's sex scene took place in a twin bed. But then when we started upping it, Brady's like, okay, it should happen all around camp and end up in the kitchen because he's a chef. They sanitize. Everybody is like, I hope they sanitize. They do.
I literally was reading it and I was like waiting for the
everybody
sanitization of the scene.
So I was trying to think about, like, there's so much of it. Like when you see behind the scenes from like film and things like that, the sex scenes, like filming them is not sexy. And I feel like it's the same thing with writing them. Yeah. It's a lot about logistics, and it's about like, it's logistics. And it was happening in the kitchen. And I was like, what you think about in a kitchen is not like sweet romantic connection. And so I was trying to figure out how they could be in a kitchen, using the kitchen, and also having that moment. And it was hard to try and figure out. And I was like, let's see what ChatGPT thinks. I was never going to take it, but I was like, just to get an idea.
Brainstorm.
So I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, okay, there are these two characters. This is their relationship. This is where they are. Write a sex scene in the kitchen. And it wrote back and it said, we are not allowed to write adult content. And I was like, oh! And I felt so shamed. And so I told Brady, and she's like, that's like taking my favorite dessert and giving it to a robot. But I wrote it and I sent it to her and she made it a lot better.
No, you were just fine. Don't pretend like you don't have a dirty mind.
This book is sweet, 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 and all of a sudden it's like, bam.
That's her.
Yeah. It's like, and
You have to wait a while for some of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta make it worth people's time.
I also, just in talking about the mashed potatoes, I did love the specific of Hillary preferring leftovers, which is that.
I
You-
love that. So it's interesting when, you know, we do all of this work for the character, and then there's a lot of different things. Like Cooper wears a bunch of fun aprons. That was not planned. Once you start writing and adding some color to it, you kind of like find little things. And I do love leftovers, and that's something that my grandmother and I shared. And I love cold pasta. Like, I don't want to heat it up, but cold pasta, like straight from the fridge, cold pizza. Like now with air fryers, like you can probably make it taste good, like good fresh. But I really like leftovers. And so I thought that was an interesting thing for Hillary to have. And it's a connection she has with her mother who passed away when she was young. And she's dating a chef who, like, leftovers are offensive to him. So it created some fun tension. But yeah, I do like leftovers.
Yeah. And some fun sentimentality to
Yeah, for sure.
their relationship. All right, let's pause.
Okay.
And just open the floor and just see if anyone would like to ask a question.
I have a question.
Okay.
So when you were saying how you guys have an established plot line, but you're like writing and okay, they can't kiss yet.
Yeah.
Do you tell her or you just send her the chapter?
I think I sent it. I think that particular one with that we read, and then there's a prank scene after that where they play a mean prank on Luke. I think I just was like, I had a really good idea about this, but I remember writing that scene. Like I was like trying to go to bed, and like my husband's like tired, and I'm like, just a minute, and I'm like writing it down because I had this idea in my head, and then I was really excited to share it with her.
And sometimes she'll send me a message. She's like, I did something. It's not, just give it a chance. And I read it. I'm like,
just try it out, see what you think.
and I loved it. I'm like, it's so fun. And I think that there is, like, when you're looking at an outline, you're like, okay, well, this is a great place for them to kiss. But if it doesn't feel right, it's not right yet.
Yeah.
Just like life. But yeah, it was a really happy accident because it's a really fun scene, and it's a good moment for our characters to kind of bond.
Yeah.
And then it led to, so here's another little bit about that. There's a scene right after the prank, which comes in my chapter, but Brady's like, I wrote this scene and I think it belongs in your chapter. So she handed it to me like a beautiful gift. And I'm like, all right, now I have the first part of the next chapter. So there is a lot of, shared work in there, which is fun.
We talk a lot about like killing your darlings in
Mhm.
writing, which is like you either getting rid of a character you love or a scene you love. How does it go when one or the other suggests cutting something that, as the writer, you feel extra attached to? Have you had those moments?
Yeah, I mean it's hard,
Yeah.
and we have a problem where we write really, like we overwrite everything, and then we have to cut back. To
And
sort of
she's like a lot more brutal than I am.
But I also like overwrite so much, and so it is really hard. I think it's helpful to have somebody else tell you what you need to cut, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a hard time seeing what you need to cut, and have somebody else be like, this isn't necessary, and then you're like, fine, cut. Yeah.
So we do
Hard.
have Brady's agency has an incredible editor, Genevieve, and so we send it to Genevieve. And last time she took this next book from 114,000 to I think 103 or 4.
Yeah.
So like she's great at like not just cutting. She's like, you don't need this or things like that, but like it's amazing what cutting little words. Or I get really excited when we're like, she cannot, and you're like, can't, yay! We lost a word. It's really exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We've got two right here. Let's go.
Well, so obviously you guys plot your story out, but how often are you going and you go off plot, and do you have to replot or do you steer back to it? I mean, there's two of you, so it's got to be complicated.
Yeah, we do sometimes have to steer back to it, but I think sometimes one of us will have an idea and we'll just bring it up to the other one, and oftentimes I feel like it's me being like, okay, just give it a chance, just think about it first. I mean, and you're always like totally open to it.
And so, and if I'm not, we'll talk about
Then
it.
we'll
And
talk about it,
we
yeah.
we have weekly Zoom calls usually, and we talk a lot about it. But this book we had to plot twice because of the shift that we had, and it was really interesting because our agents were like, we just finished the draft. We were literally a week away from sending it in, and we're like, had a call with our agents about what we're gonna do. We're like, we can make these like small tweaks and it'll be okay. And my agent was like, totally. Or you can make this major change.
We were like, no,
No,
we're not doing that.
Like, she's like, it's okay if you don't want to because it's going to take a lot of work and you already are done and like, you don't have to. We're like, absolutely not.
No.
And then we like, later that afternoon, we're like, we're not doing that. And we're like, no. But then I don't know if it was you or me that was like, but what if
What if we
should?
did?
And we replotted the book out in 30 minutes over Messenger
Yeah.
with like just kind of like back and forth. So I think that we were talking earlier that there's a lot of writing teams now, and you can't just write with anybody. And I think that we have such trust and such respect, and we're genuine fans of each other. And so you have to have that relationship where if Brady's like, trust me with this, and she says all the time that 2 brains together are better than 2 brains separately. And so we do a really good job of like, if we're not happy, if one of us isn't happy with something, then we'll work to maybe find another way.
Yeah.
But she's so good at plotting that when she has an idea, when she has an idea, what we, most like 9 out of 10 times we'll just go with it and it ends up being much better.
In your separate books though, because you guys obviously do that too,
Mhm.
do you plot just as much?
I think that with us together, we have to plot more
Yeah.
because we don't share a brain.
Yeah.
But also the more experience you get, I feel like like I am allergic to math and Brady is a doctor and like has to be good at it.
I'm not, yeah, no, that's not related.
Okay, well,
It seems like it should
I feel like
be.
It's not related.
anyway, she's really good at math. And so she thinks like, okay, the 25% mark, this has to happen, the 50% mark. And I don't think like that at all. So I trust her on a lot of that stuff. But also, we were very involved with each other's solo projects.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite stories, my second book, Little Pieces of Me, again, I read reviews, I know I'm not supposed to, but a couple reviews called out one particular line that people loved. And Brady wrote that line. And, because when she was reading it and critiquing it, she's like, it needs something else here, something like this. And I'm like, well, that's perfect. So I put it in. So we were really involved in each other's solo projects even before we started writing together.
Yeah.
That's special. Cool.
Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, so many questions. You're a doctor as well?
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
you have 4 kids.
I have 4 kids.
Oh my
And 2
God.
dogs.
And 2 dogs.
And she just learned the ukulele.
Okay. Unbelievable. Well, I'm not a writer at all. I'm a designer, but I love literature and grew up reading everything I can get my hands on. So this may be a really no fair question and bad form. So I apologize in advance.
I know.
But it is summer and it's all great fun. So are you guys excited for to have your books optioned to be like a series on TV?
It would be a
We
dream.
would love that. It's always like this sort of pie in the sky dream. We have a film agent. If anyone wants his name, let us know.
We are in LA.
Yeah, we would love that. Summer camp book, romance, come on.
Yeah, I'll buy another one too. You can buy
Let's
my
do
section.
two of
them.
All the producers who might be
Okay,
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we love that.
It's a dream. And I feel like, we were in St. Louis 2 days ago, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And had lunch with my family. And that's the question. Because everybody wants to know that because you see all these books getting optioned and it's a great trend. Totally here for it. Would love for ours to get.
Who are your leading ladies and your leading guys in your mind? Like, who would you put? If you
Oh
were to ask
man.
You're the first
Oh my gosh,
person
you've
to ask
never
us
asked
that.
that. Really? I don't
For this
know.
one,
Yeah, Paul Newman hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI generated.
I
I love Seth Rogen. I could see Seth Rogen as Cooper.
That'd be cute.
I could see him as Cooper.
I don't know. I think it was hotter than that.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm thinking. Come on.
But we'll take suggestions for this. But I do think there's a summer camp movie coming out this summer. I feel like there's our 2 books. Anne Garvin has a camp book called Bummer Camp. There's a couple thriller summer camp books. There's something in the
Bridget
atmosphere.
Morrissey wrote one last summer.
Yeah.
She has
Yes.
our same editor.
Yeah.
There's I think that maybe people want that nostalgia. So
Yeah.
cross your fingers. It'll be great.
And what about for the females?
I don't know. It's hard. We would love suggestions. So
Yeah, if
maybe
you
we'll
read
just
it,
leave
then
to-
message us on social media
I
and
think
tell
you
us
make
who
it
you
play.
think.
You're so
All right,
Oh,
what
gosh.
do you think? I
No.
don't know. No.
I love it.
It's hard. It's hard though because sometimes you create these characters and because they're so real in your head, they're
Yeah.
hard to pinpoint
They
who are.
are.
I had it for my and it depends. Like for the last one, I had 100% knew who I wanted to play Hillary, but I don't know.
Yeah.
For this one, I haven't thought that much about it. But if we get a call, we'll brainstorm.
Yeah,
some
We'll
ideas.
brainstorm, yeah.
And please feel free, I'm sure they have an email address you
Yeah.
can send your
Did
suggestions.
Did you have individual agents, or you went together to get a new agent, or how did you deal with the agent?
That's a good question, yeah.
We have two agents. We each have our own
We each
agent.
have our own agent.
And when we tell the story of how we started writing together, we didn't tell our agents when we first
Which is
started
like
writing
really
each
not
other.
what you're supposed to do. We just decided to write a book together. And then I was like, hi, Amy.
Yeah.
I decided to write a book with my friend. And she was like, I think she
She's like,
called
how
me.
well do you know
Yeah,
this
she called me. She's
person?
like, how well do you know
Oh,
this person?
wow.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal. She does represent some other people that co-write. And she was like, it's a big deal to like, it's like you're going into business with somebody.
Yeah.
And so, a side note to that point, Christina Lauren, who like are some of our writing idols who we just love, we had a call with them because we know how to write a book together, but we're like, and you guys will all hopefully see later, like, how do you sign an autograph? Because I have a little cutesy little, girly little thing, and she's a
I'm
doctor.
like, scribble.
And so they said Christina writes Christina's name, Lauren writes Lauren's name. So like things like that. But the best piece of advice that they gave us was like, don't forget about your friendship.
Yeah.
Like have some calls or have time on a call being like, okay, let's friendship 10 minutes. What's going on? How are you? Like,
Yeah.
so making our friendship a priority because that's how it started. But having two agents, so our agents are both amazing and have different strengths. Her agent is like an industry powerhouse, represents Nora Roberts.
Yeah, also so crazy people.
like-
She's kind of a shark. She's kind of scary. I'm kind of scared of her.
And my agent lives in Chicago, so I get to like have
Yeah.
we get to like have lunches together and things like that, and they get to like play off of each other a little bit. So great, my agent can be like, well, Amy will never go with that to our editor.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah, good cop, bad cop. Yeah,
but they, we each get half, and then they get 15% of our half. So it's like they work together. And our first editor, all 4 books are from Berkeley, but our first editor had a good relationship with Brady's agent, and our second editor has worked with my agent before. So they work well together, which is great.
Just gonna scan. Anybody have any other questions?
Well, we promised this would feel like a night at camp, so we're
Yeah.
gonna close with one more song.
I will indulge us. Just sing a
Do
song.
we put our hats back on?
Do you want to?
I think
I'm
we
kinda
should.
leaning to
I
that.
feel like we should.
Okay. I love that
Okay.
you're into this.
So this is a song that when I was growing up, we would sing it on the last night of camp.
But first,
What?
we're gonna have everyone take out their phones.
Oh, yes, please go to the words are on Instagram, so yes.
So if you have Instagram, open up Instagram. Our handle is Allie Brady Books. That's ALIBRADYBOOKS. I always feel like I'm spelling bee. So Allie Brady Books.
Can you spell it again, please?
ALI.
And then Brady is in like the Brady Bunch, BREDY, books. Allie Brady Books.
You don't have good reception? Oh no.
Oh, no.
Well, if you can get it, hopefully. Okay.
Okay.
So on the
hear me sing.
third row in the middle, you're gonna. Well, if you're
There's a green square that says songbook.
while you're there, if you want to give us a follow, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Follow. So he's like,
But this square has the Allie Brady's book tour songbook. So we're gonna sing the song together. This song, somebody asked at one of our first events, if this book was a song, what would it be? And it would be this song. There's a little quote from the book, from the song at the beginning of the book. And it's just like the camp vibe. So Brady again will play the ukulele with her beautiful voice, and the rest of us come as we are, just sing,
when you
pretend
catch the melody, just start singing.
Is everyone ready?
Okay.
Okay,
Mine's
so
not
if you
loading,
found the
so I'm
song
just
Oh my
it's a
God.
green square.
It's not
wing it.
loading.
Oh, are you guys don't have,
We've got 2 bars.
nobody has enough bars? I got it.
We have it.
Do we all have AT&T?
Oh, sorry, Verizon. So that's
I have Verizon too.
Yeah. This is the first time this has
It's
happened.
not happening anywhere else. Yeah, they have no bars.
I think I remember it maybe.
Is it linked?
Oh, you know what? I
Yes,
have the.
yes,
That's it. Verizon works.
Wow.
Oh my God, I
That's what I have.
I should have screenshot it today. I was looking.
I know. I think I might have this. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll start, and hopefully you guys can. Did it load for you?
Got
What do I do? More?
There we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
I'm sorry if you guys can't get it, but you can at least do that.
I see the dots now.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, are we ready?
Okay.
I wanna linger a little longer here with you. It's such a perfect night. It doesn't seem quite right that it should be my last with you. When comes September, I will remember our camping days and friendships true. And as the years go by, I'll think of you inside. This is tonight and not goodbye. I wanna linger a little longer here with you. Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
I know, that was so good.
Thank you.
And then two other things. There's been so many people that we know on Instagram. And so if you're on Instagram and follow us, tell us your names because there's so many times where people will tag us after and we're like, they were there.
And we
And
know
so
who you are.
We know
so.
people's names. So please say hi to us if you are. And then we're happy to sign books, but we also have a guest book that we would love to have you guys sign. So you can pick any page and just write a message or write your name. But
And we have some swag for people who come to our events. So you get a friendship bracelet, we have a sticker, and we have a postcard from camp. So please take one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. This was such a pleasure to get to chat with you.
We didn't talk about your book.
Oh, that's okay. This is your event.
Yeah, but pick up a copy.
You can pick up a
summer.
I will literally sign anything.
But
Yeah.
I just have to say, I just have to say that like her book is incredible and it is so interesting. I highly recommend reading them both because there are so many things that we have in common, but the stories
And
are so different.
So different.
Yeah.
But it's
so
really-
different, too.
Can I give us one spoiler?
Sure.
We both have a good girl reference
Yes.
in our books. It's
Yes.
a little sexy
No, I'll have a
reference.
little
Yes.
good girl
And when I came
reference.
across that in your book, I almost keeled over. It's so, but it's still so different. The context is so different.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This
Thank
was
you
lovely.
so much.
Thanks you guys for coming.
Thank you all so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Bye everyone online. Okay, so fun.